Good morning, everyone. We're going to continue our week's goal of 4NBT6. Let's all go ahead and read the I can statement together. I can divide multi-digit numbers by one-digit numbers using a variety of strategies. So we're going to continue doing that. So lately what we've been doing is we've been going over the vocabulary, and this is important because when it comes to working on these types of questions, knowing what each part of it is and means will help us identify and solve the problems. So we're going to go ahead and color code this. So first we have divisor. That's the number we divide the whole number with. We're going to go ahead and highlight this one dark green for the sake of today's lesson, divisor. And just so that we can visually see what they are, I'm going to go ahead and put a little division problem here. We're going to do 14 divided by 3. This is one we worked on yesterday, and I cannot do 3's properly. And yesterday we learned that 14 divided by 3 is the same as 3 groups of 4 with 2 left over. So we know it's 4 remainder 2. So we're going to go ahead and get on that. So our divisor was 3 because we divided the whole number by 3. We have the dividend, which is the whole number who's getting divided. In our 14 divided by 3 example, that was the 14. So let's go ahead and highlight that in blue. Next, we have the quotients, the answer to a division problem. So our answer was 4 remainder 2 altogether. So we're going to go ahead and highlight that in yellow. Next, we have remainders. They are the numbers that are left over that cannot be divided. We'll highlight that in pink. Consider how in this equation we had 2 left over because you cannot equally split the number 2 into 3 groups, so we have the R2. We're going to go ahead and do that pink. Even though it is part of the quotient as well, you'll sometimes have a remainder. Let's get started with the math. But before that, we have some clue words, and I feel like this is worth discussing because in our word problems, there's going to be a few words that give us hints about clues. What are some that you can think of? The word split usually means we have groups. The word group is also going to be a takeaway that we're doing division. And we also have the obvious. This is divided by. If you see divided or divide, we know it's going to be division. Splitting, groups, many, which is oftentimes used for multiplication, can also be for division if it's many groups, and so on. We'll touch more on that when we do the word problems. So for our warm-up, we have 24 divided by 5. Lately, how we've been approaching this is using the array model that we have learned in our earlier grades. So let's go ahead and start that. First things first, let's label it. Which one's the whole number? What's our dividend? That's right, it's 25. What's your divisor? What are we dividing it by? 4. Very good. Next, we are going to go ahead and make the array. For those of you following along, this is how we do it. So we're going to go ahead and make our dots. And I expect you guys to be following along on your notebook or the whiteboard app, whichever one you are more comfortable with. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, one more group of 5. So we have an array over here. So we have 25 dots altogether. And we know that we're making groups of 4. So I will go ahead and circle those. So we have what? Whoops, that's the wrong function. We have 1 group of 4. We have 2 groups of 4. We have 3 groups of 4. 4 groups of 4, and we have 5 groups of 4. And over here we have another group of 4. So we have 1, 2. I can Still not write threes very well. 3, 4, 5, 6 groups. So we know part of our quotient is going to be 6. But what about this number here? We have a 1 there. Does 1 split equally into a group of 4? No. What do we call that? We call that our remainder. So we would write this as 6R1. And we're going to go ahead and highlight our remainder in pink. And we're going to highlight our quotient in yellow because the remainder is part of the quotient. I know some of you are wondering, why does remainder matter? We had this problem recently, so let's talk about it. A lot of you have picked up on that multiplication is the opposite of division. And if we want to check to see if our multiplication or division is right, you would do the inverse. So check our work for this one. We would do 6 times 4. From our math facts, we know that this equals to 24. But does 24 equal 25? Not quite. That's where the remainder comes into play. Let me circle that in another color. So we have the remainder over here. We don't multiply the remainder because 6 never went in there. Therefore, it is not a multiple, or it's not something 6 can multiply into. Instead, what we do is we just add the remainder because it's an extra. So 24 plus 1 gives us 25, and it matches up. So it's very important to add the remainder. Without the remainder, you're going to get stuck, you're going to make a mistake, and it's going to give everyone involved a headache. So what about if we had 3 digits, 123? We've been doing arrays. Does anybody here really feel like making 100 dots on the screen? You can, but even going at high speed, it's going to waste a lot of time. What if we use another strategy called the area model? Who remembers the area model for multiplication? Yeah, so when you do the area model for multiplication, the way it would work is we would solve for the whole number using the parts that we do know. In division, it's different because we have the whole number as shown over here. Our whole number here is 123. So we would go ahead and put that in the middle. And we only know one of the sides. We know it's 6. So let me go ahead and color this in here. We know that's the whole number. We know that's the divisor. And actually, our quotient is the other side, and we have to solve for that. So let's walk through the area model so we can become more acquainted with it, because I think you'll find that you save a little bit of time using the strategy. So let's go ahead and create our area model. So from this picture over here, we know our int has to add to 123. We're going to leave it blank for now. And we know our side is 6. So we go ahead and write that down. And we are solving for this. So the way this works is we have 123. So we'll put 123 right over here. Actually, no, we'll leave 123 right over here as shown. So many of us are going to want to look at how to approach this. There's a few strategies to this, but the easiest way would be using our math facts. So many of us know already 6 times 12 is 72 because we've been practicing this, but I know some of us still struggle. I sometimes forget myself, so I include this table here so you guys can follow along better. Now we're going to go ahead and look at number 6. Let's skip count together to see what's the largest we can get to. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, 60, 66, 72. We know the number 72 is our largest math fact, and we also know 6 times 12 is what gives us 72. So we would go ahead and put the number 12 on top. We know 12 times 6 is 72, and we would close off that box. So essentially, we created a multiplication area model that looks like this. And that's going to be part of it. It's not quite the same because remember, our number is looking, our goal here is to find number 123. This is part of it. And if you guys remember, it's a partial quotient. We call that a partial quotient. Let's continue. So we take 123 and we're going to subtract 72 because we've already figured out where 72 of those came from. 3 minus 2 is 1. You can't do 2 minus 7. We have to take away a 10 or 100, regroup that. 12 minus 7 gives us 5. So we're at 51. We need to figure out what 6 factor can go into 51. For those of you who know this mentally, great job. For those of you who struggle a little bit, let's go back to the chart. So we have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54. 54 is too big. So let's go down to 48. And we know 6 times 8 right up here gives us 48. So put the 8 right up here. And we know that's 48. So what we did here is we created the 6 times 8 equals 48 area model. And now we're going to take away 48 one more time. That becomes a 4. 1 becomes 11 because of regrouping. We have 3 left. We'll put number 3 in here because 6 can't go into 3. So we know this is the remainder. I'll put a plus sign right there, plus R3. But we're not quite done yet. We have to add up all of our partial quotients. So we know the number 12 is our partial quotient. And we know that 8 is a partial quotient and the remainder 3 is a partial quotient. But what we're going to do is we're going to add the whole numbers, not the remainders. And I'll explain why in just a moment. So we get 12 plus 8. That gives us 20. The reason we can add these is because we were able to divide this whole number by 6 to reach these parts. So that's why we get 20 by itself. The remainder is not added to this because there was no division done here. It was simply too small. So we would leave it as R3. So when we write our answer, it would be 20R3. Go ahead and get that remainder in pink. And yeah. So we use this to get the quotient from adding. So this part right here, when you combine it, it's going to give us the quotient. Now it's time for us to check our work. So let me erase this portion over here and make some space so we can check it. And let's do our math. So we have 20 times 6. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. We have 120. Now the remainder, since we didn't do any division, we don't do any multiplication. We simply go on ahead to add 3 because that's what's left over. 120 plus 3 gives us 123. And that's how we know this answer is correct. Okay. Very good. Now we're going to go ahead and apply this to 247 divided by 8. I'll go ahead and zoom out a little bit so you guys can see the times table chart if you need it. And I would like you guys to pause the video right here and try to work it out on your own. And after you've worked it out or you get stuck, go ahead and hit play so we can work it out. So I'm going to wait a little bit just to make sure you paused it because maybe we're not paying attention or maybe we just don't want to do the work, but really should do the work. It's the only way to make sure you get better at this. So let's go ahead and hop to it. So we will create our area model. And I like creating a little extra one here on the side because it helps me remember what goes where. So we have our whole number. So we'll put our whole over here. We know our whole is going to be 247. And we know one of the side is going to automatically be 8 because that's our divisor. So we have our dividend or whole number, our divisor, and we need to figure out what the quotient is. What is this? What are we doing? So, and now we draw it one more time right here. I think I'll draw it right here on the left side just so we can have a little bit more space to do that. And my dog in the background is living her best life. It happens. So we have the number 8 over here. Let's look at our times 8 math facts. And from looking at this, we know that our biggest 8 is going to be number 96, coming from 8 times 12. Let's go ahead and do this. So 8 times 12. So we put 12 up here and a plus sign. And we know this is going to be 96. Next, we take 247. Subtract the 96. And we do the necessary regrouping. 7 minus 6 is 1. 4 minus 9 can't be done. Had to borrow from the 2. 14 minus 9 is 5. And we have the 1 left over. If you're looking at this really quickly, you see, ooh, let's do it again, because 96 goes in there. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and do that again. So we have 9, 6, 12. Now we're subtracting another 96 because we need to get as close as possible. 4, regroup, 11, take away 6, 5. 14 minus 9, 5. We have 55 left. Let's look at our math facts for 8. So we have 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56. Well, hold on, 56 is too big. Can't do that. So we're going to do 48. 8 times 6 gives us 48. So put plus sign and put the number 6 right over here. 48, this last rectangle is going to be there because we know there's going to be a remainder. 55 minus 48 gives us 7. 007, if you will. So we have 7 left. And 8 will not go into 7, so we know that's remainder 7, which we will highlight in pink so we don't accidentally add it up. So we have 12 plus 12 plus 6. So let me go ahead and erase this here because we've already done what we needed to do with that. I'm always, if I'm going too fast, or you can always rewind a little bit, pause the video, catch up. So now we have our parts of the quotient right over here, our partial quotients. Add them up. So we have 12 plus 12 plus 6. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. Put a 0, carry the 1. 3 ones is 30, gives us 30. So is our answer going to be just 30? Or do we have to include the remainder? Make sure to always include the remainder. So we have 30, remainder 7. Go ahead and erase that again because we're going to need that space in just a moment. So we'll highlight that in yellow because we know this is our answer. Include a little bit of pink for the remainder. And we can check our work. So one thing we can do to check our work is we can check to see if all these parts over here add up to 247. That's one way to look at it. But since we are team multiplication out in these streets, we're going to go ahead and multiply. 30 times 8. That's 0, because anything times 0 is 0. We know this. 8 times 3 is 24. We have 240. Now, do we multiply the remainders or do we add the remainders? Dramatic pause. If you said we add the remainders, you are 100% correct. We add the remainders because there was no division involved there. It is simply a leftover. Therefore, we just add it instead of multiplying. That gives us 247. Does 247 equal 247? Yes, it does. Great job, everyone. Now we have a word problem here. Features of the cubes. You guys are experts at cubes, but just in case, I went ahead and included the chart right here because it's about time I remembered to put it instead of having to write it down every time. Cracking my fingers because I can. Excuse me. I'll go ahead and read this for you guys. The bird army that Alexis has been developing is almost ready to send into the field. There are currently 148 birds in the army, and they need to be separated into squads of 8 birds. How many squads will there be? First, so at this point, I would like you to pause the video and go through the cubes so you can check to see if you got it right when I go over it. And this is, again, a delay to make sure you guys pause the video because we need to practice. Practice makes perfect. And I'm going to trust that you guys paused it and attempted to work it out and are ready to check the work. Dramatic pause, dramatic pause. Okay, start with the cubes. See, we did pink. Circle the numbers. We have number 148 and we have number 8 right there. Put a check mark there because we just did that step. Now for the U, underline the question. There's only one question mark in the sentence. How many squads will there be? Beautiful. Next is box the keywords. Squads. Isn't squads another word for groups? Yeah. So squads. Whoa, that was a weird interaction. Squads. Right here it says how many squads. And right here I have the word separated. Isn't separated the same as splitting or dividing? Yeah. So we can kind of guess with reasonable suspicion that we're going to be doing a division problem here. I mean, you know, I can't imagine what gave us the hint that we're doing division. It's, I don't know. We just figured it out. So we know it's division. Check. Unneeded information. So I like making up these little stories because they make me laugh. Because I know Alexis likes birds and he has some really cool pet birds. But at the end of the day, it's not going to help us solve our math problems. But birds are really cool. So now we create our equation. So we know 148 is the total amount of birds because it's currently in the army, bird army. So we have 148. That is an ugly 8 divided by 8. And I cannot draw the number 8. Let's see if I believe I can achieve. There we go. And we did unlimited important information. So let's go ahead and do the area model now. So we know 8 is going to be out there. We know the whole is 148, and we know we're solving for the question mark. Let's color code that. Blue is our whole. Dark green is our divisor. Yellow is what we're looking for. So now we've made our reference model. We can make our for reals' model. So we have 8 question mark, and now we have to figure it out. So 8, looking at our 8 math facts, what's the furthest we can go? 8, let's go all the way down to 96. So we know 8 times 12 gives us 96 because we use that one extensively. So we're going to go ahead and put 12 right here. 8 times 12 gives us 96. Seal the box. Now to figure out how much is left for the whole. So we have 148 because that's the whole, minus 96, the part that we figured out so far. That gives us 52. Let's look back at our number chart. What math fact for 8 gives us 52? We have 48 because 56 is too big, so 48. 8 times what is 48, guys? 6. Very good memory. So we put the 6 up here. Excuse me, Mr. Question Mark, you're in the way. So we have 12 plus 6 gives us 48. We do 52 minus 48. regroup, and we are left with 4. And we have 4 left over. Can 8 go into 4? Not exactly. So we know that the 4 is going to be a remainder. And let's highlight that in pink so we can know that and not get confused when we're adding up our yellows, our whole numbers are multiplied with. So we have 12 plus 6. 12 plus 6 is 18. So that would give us 18R4. What are we figuring out for? How many squads will there be? So we have 18 squads and 4 birds will be hanging out. So now we circle this because, well, not circle, we highlight that in yellow because we know it's our answer. Keep the remainder in pink so we know there's a remainder. Now we have to do the S. Does it make sense? We have to check the work, see if it's accurate. And I know many of you are very much talented with multiplication. So let's go ahead and do this in red because doesn't make sense is in red. So we have 18 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 4. That gives us 14. Can't forget the remainder. Do we multiply the remainder or add it? That's right, we add it because it was unable to get divided. That gives us 148. Does 148 equal 148? Yes, sir. That's how we know it's correct. Okay, I appreciate you guys for watching this video for so long. Let's just do one more problem because I really want to make sure you guys get it. And just to have mercy on you guys, instead of lots of homework, we're going to give you the one homework question. This right here is our homework. I will post this onto Schoology, and this one problem is going to be our homework, but I need you to show your work. So what I would like to see is I would like you guys to grab a notebook or a whiteboard, work this problem out, send me a picture of the work and your final answer. And I will make sure to have this problem up there, as well as some pictures to help you. And of course, you can always watch this video once more to go ahead and get some more help. Okay, so thank you for your time, and you guys have a wonderful day.